What's up guys, InTheWorks, and welcome to another Battlefield 3 showdown between the AS Val and the PDW-R, and it's probably not a good idea to fly a helicopter towards me because I've been known to shoot out pilots. So the AS Val and the PDW-R were the two most requested to go against each other. A lot of you guys said on Facebook you'd like to see them face off, so that's what we're doing this week. But last week, we did the M98B versus all the other bolt actions, and it was pretty conclusive in the Facebook poll and the comments that most of you guys liked the M98B, and those who didn't like the M98B preferred the L96. So if you want to be a part in next week or this week's episode, be sure to leave a comment and vote in the Facebook poll at the end of the video. I always grab a couple comments to appear in the episode, so that'll be in the description to click at the end of this video. But these two weapons are two all-purpose weapons, like I already stated, and they're two pretty popular weapons, especially the AS Val. It tends to have a very close cult following because a lot of people really swear by it. But let's take a look at some of the stats here. You can see the AS Val does a damage of 22 at its maximum up close, and it'll drop off to a 16.7 at its its furthest distance. It fires at a rate of 900 rounds per minute, reloads at 2.7 seconds, which is pretty quick, and has a pretty high recoil versus the PDW-R, which has a damage of 25, which is higher than the AS Val, but only fires at 750 rounds per minute, reloads at 3.4 seconds, and it has a pretty moderate recoil. So these weapons are pretty similar. I'd say the biggest difference is the drop off, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the PDW-R does start at a higher damage at up close. You unlock it at level 32, which is a lot earlier than the AS Val, which you don't unlock until level 45. So you do have to wait a little bit longer for the AS Val, but the biggest advantage of the PDW-R is up close. It does do more damage, so if you consider yourself a very accurate shot, you'll be a little bit better. So like I said, you unlock the AS Val at level 45. The biggest advantage you see here with the AS Val is just the fact that it's really easy to control it in short bursts, but you will go through ammo very quickly. That's why I suggest you run extended mags. I would also suggest the same for the PDW-R. Unfortunately, for the extended mags on the AS Val, you have to get 200 kills, so you do have to spend some time with the weapon before you are rewarded with the extended mags, but they do pay off because it does fire so quickly that it is very beneficial to have these extended mags on the AS Val. The same can be said for the PDW-R, but since it does fire at a little bit more of a moderate pace, it's not such a big deal. I find myself eating through ammo on both of these quite frequently, but the AS Val especially. So that's some things to consider when choosing a weapon here. But they both have 30 round magazines plus one in the chamber, so there's no difference there. Now the reload times is where it gets a little bit tricky. The AS Val does reload much faster, I guess I should say, than the PDW-R. So if you're looking for a quick reload weapon, this is not the one you want. You want to go with the AS Val, you don't want to go with the PDW-R. But that's kind of comboed with the fact that it does eat through ammo so quick. So I guess they kind of balance it out in that degree. But like I mentioned earlier, the biggest advantage you see with the AS Val is just that it holds its damage at distance. The PDW-R may be like a hot, it's a beast up close, but once you kind of lose that range, it starts to drop off and not be so high. It drops off to that 12.5 bullet kill, which takes a lot of bullets to kill at range. So that's where the AS Val really shines. I found it's probably out of the all-purpose weapons, it is hands down the best at longer ranges. It's really nice that the first couple bursts feel like they're really on target, whereas with the PDW-R, I feel like the cone of fire at range is really spread out versus the nice compactness of the AS Val. So even though it does have more recoil, it tends to be the best of breed in terms of all-purpose weapons, in terms of PDWs up close. Now, the most confusing thing about this all-purpose class is that they are technically personal defense weapons, yet they name the PDW-R the PDW-R. So I know that might get a little bit confusing, but technically I guess they are all classified as personal defense weapons in Battlefield 3, although I would really consider the AS Val more of a, I wouldn't really say it was it's more like an automatic sniper almost, because the VSS, I think it was sniper rifle in Bad Company 2 is actually pretty similar to this, so it is definitely a long range master, I would say, whereas the PDW is a up close, in your face, high damage weapon. Because out of the all-purpose weapons, the UMP and the PDW-R are the two that shoot or do the most damage up close at 25, but they are the two that drop off the fastest. So there are some things to consider when picking a weapon like this. Now, like I said, I personally prefer the AS Val. It is my favorite all-purpose weapon in this game, and it's probably my go-to if I want to play the engineer class and do a little bit more of a long-range shooting, especially with the extended mags. But I would say the only thing that really compares to the AS Val for the engineer on long-range shooting is either the carbines, obviously, or if you want to go with the SCAR. The SCAR actually is the second least drop-off in the game in terms of max damage to lowest damage, and I know that might be a little bit confusing stat, but the SCAR goes from 30 and it only drops off to a 20, so it retains a lot of its damage at long range because it does shoot that larger round. So be sure to let me know what you guys think in the Facebook poll this week, because this was a request from Facebook. I polled you guys the other day and I asked you what would you like to see it go against the AS Val, and the majority of you guys felt like you wanted to see the PDW-R, and I think it was a good choice. So be sure to let me know what you might like to see in the future and vote on these two weapons, because I'm really curious to see what you guys think about these two, because they're pretty similar, but I have a sneaking suspicion that you guys are going to pick the AS Val. At least that's what I'm hoping, because it is one of my favorite weapons in the game. But that's not to say the PDW-R doesn't get the job done, because it certainly does. But next week we're going to be doing something super awesome. We're going to be doing American weapons versus the Russian weapons, and we're going to do a handful of weapons there. And it was requested on Facebook, and I was like, man, that sounds like an awesome idea, because the Russian weapons have gotten a substantial buff in the patch. So we'll do a handful of weapons to kind of face off against each other, and I think it should be a pretty cool episode, and it'll be a little bit different than what we're used to. But if you missed any of the past episodes, last week we did the M98B versus the SV98, M40, L96, and the week before that we did the G18 versus the 93R. So those are both really cool episodes, so check either of those out, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and I want to remind you, be sure to vote in this week's Facebook poll, and I will see you guys later.